I slayed 11 priests at midnight. Each death revealed a dark secret from the Black Bible. The air was thick with an eerie tension, like the calm before a thunderstorm. Under the pale light of a waning moon, shadows danced on the cracked graveyard stones. Each whispered prayer clung to the night, heavy with fear, as if the very air held its breath. Tonight, something terrible was set to unfold. Malevolence lurked among the gravestones, wrapping its sinister fingers around the heart of an unholy ritual. 11 priests were about to face their reckoning, a reckoning echoing from the cursed pages of the Black Bible. No one dared speak of it. The whispers of dark magic, the unearthly chants that rose from the ancient crypts beneath the church. But those who knew, those who felt it in their bones, trembled at the thought. The priests, known for their piety and solemnity, were not what they seemed. In hidden corners of the town, people exchanged stories of blood oaths and unspeakable sacrifices. It was rumored that each father had a grim secret, buried deeper than their solitude, a connection to forces that should never see the light of day. As the clock struck midnight, a singular scream shattered the stillness, echoing through the hollow air. It churned the stomach and raised the hair on the back of the neck. People jolted awake, peeking through drawn curtains, hearts racing. The sound had come from the church. Shivers ran down spines. What could be so terrible to unleash such a cry? Each person could feel the icy grip of dread closing in. The streets, usually teeming with life, lay abandoned under the watchful gaze of the moon, bats flitting overhead like dark messengers, signaling the arrival of the unthinkable. The first priest fell beneath the shadows, silence swallowing his gasp. The ritual had begun. One by one, their secrets would be dragged into the light. An act of vengeance, orchestrated by someone they never expected, a figure draped in darkness, holding a dagger that glinted like a star in the night. But who was this avenger? A ghost from their past. The air crackled with unease, each moment stretching uncomfortably, as the town held its breath. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The clock continued its relentless ticking, amplifying the building chaos. Another scream echoed, but it was intertwined with a muffled confession. The townsfolk pressed their faces against the glass, hands trembling. What were they witnessing? Was a secret worth spilling blood? With each fallen priest, the truth clawed its way to the surface, moldy with betrayal and dark pacts. Would the twisted tale of betrayal ever end? And who, amidst the sinister tapestry, would rise to reveal their sins under the gnarled fingers of fate? The moon hung low in the sky, casting a ghastly glow over the graveyard. Each flicker of light revealed a tableau of horror, a shocking discovery playing out behind the oak doors of the church. The second priest, one known for his milky white robes and warm smile, fell victim to the avenger's blade. No cries erupted this time, just a heavy thud against the cold earth as the shadows swiftly enveloped him. Gasps echoed from the windows, mothers clutching their children, old couples holding tight to one another. They could see him, the avenger, a dark silhouette, moving with an unearthly grace among the gravestones. Fear twisted in their guts. The truth was being unearthed with each new death. There would be no forgiveness, no escape from the sins that had festered for far too long. Waves of panic rolled through the villagers. Who could orchestrate such brutality? A figure cloaked in darkness. Was it vengeance driven by betrayal? They had always trusted their priests, revered them like family. They had no idea the shadows that lurked behind the altar outside. Sirens of distant police cars sliced through the stillness, but it was too late. The authorities would arrive soon, but the real horror lay deeper than blood on the church floor. It was festering beneath the town's skin itself. Who are you? Someone shouted into the night, voice shaking with a mix of terror and defiance. Silenced by the weight of fear, no answer came. The answer rested with the buried secrets. A third piercing scream rang out, guttural and raw. The last priest had a secret that could shatter the very fabric of their community. Eyes widened in disbelief as another desperate confession escaped through the cracks in the church doors. The townsfolk leaned closer, acutely aware now that they were complicit in this nightmare, blind to the corruption in their midst. The avenger paused, pivoting dramatically as if sensing the townspeople's anguish. Dagger stained in crimson gleamed beneath the waning moonlight, reflecting their horror. Who could summon such rage? What dark past birthed this relentless fury? Now they were not mere witnesses, they were part of the narrative being forged, a twisted tale of reckoning. A strange hush fell, tension dripped around the crowd like a shroud. In the name of God, the watcher said, clutching the rosary that once brought solace. What have we done? Then, the truth crashed down like thunder as the avenger spoke, voice low and unyielding, resonating through the graveyard as if nature itself turned to listen. They demanded blood. They silenced screams. Now it's my turn to make them answer for it. With his words, the air trembled heavy with the weight of an unresolved past. An unholy promise compelled him forward, and the dagger gleamed with a malevolence that repelled and attracted in equal measure. The town held its breath, hearts racing as revelation loomed. The dark secrets they thought buried were clawing their way back into the light. The Avenger's blade was not merely a weapon, it was a key to unlock the past that refused to stay buried. Was it justice? Was it vengeance? Uncertainty gripped their souls. Silence swept over the darkness as they waited. A collective inhale echoed through the crowd. What dreadful truth awaited in the succeeding moments? What horrors needed to be unearthed next? As the final cries of the night faded into the stillness, eyes turned toward the church, where shadows flickered like spirits taking flight. A question lingered, unspoken yet palpable. Who among them held the darkest secret of all? And when those secrets emerged, could the town survive the truth? The crowd's collective breath was caught in their throats, chilling the air between them like frost. They could feel it, the palpable anticipation crackling like static electricity before a storm. Hearts pounded as eyes darted nervously to the church's cracked doors. Suddenly, with a resounding creak, the doors swung wide open as if pushed by some unseen force, revealing the darkened interior. Shadows danced wickedly inside, swallowing all traces of light. Time seemed to fracture, bending under the weight of their fears and unforgotten sins. Then, out stepped the last priest, his face pale, eyes wild. In his trembling hands, he clutched the very book that had once provided comfort, now a harbinger of doom, the Black Bible, known for its twisted teachings hidden in Scripture. His voice was a whisper, but carried the weight of an unholy indictment. You don't understand, we were meant to protect you. Confusion sparked, the villagers could hardly comprehend the confession. Protect us from what? A young woman dared to ask, her voice trembling with uncertainty. From yourselves, he stammered. From the darkness that lies within. We fought battles to keep it hidden. His words hung heavy in the air like a dense fog, each syllable clutching the villagers' hearts tighter. Were they pawns in some elaborate game of manipulation and deceit crafted by those meant to guide them? Behind him, the Avenger lingered, a silent sentinel, his dagger poised, and eager. The glint of steel caught the dim light, igniting fear anew. What did he know? What havoc was brewing in that twisted mind? Moments flickered by in torturous slow motion. The last priest took a faltering step forward. You think the killings are random? They were chosen, each one guilty of unspeakable sins, and now. I fear it's all unraveling. Gasps erupted, mothers pulling their children closer, smothering them in arms trembling with dread outside. The wail of police sirens grew louder, but the villagers were too absorbed in their trepidation to notice. They felt it, a shift in the air, a tightening of bonds no longer unseen but now painfully apparent. Their faith had been a fragile illusion, shattered in an instant. What unspeakable sins? A husky voice rang out, breaking like glass in the stillness. What did you do? The priest's eyes, once full of warmth, now reflected something darker shame. Things, terrible things. We twisted fate to serve our selfish desires. You didn't want to see the truth, so we buried it deep. But the past doesn't fade, it festers. While he spoke, the avenger took a subtle step forward. The villagers, a moth to flame, were drawn to those words, and the truth began to settle uneasily in their hearts. Then, a sudden rustling from the underbrush. The crowd flinched as if anticipating a thunderstorm. A figure dashed into the clearing, a child no older than 10, the innocence in his eyes obscured by the weight of unspeakable burdens. I saw it. He yelled, voice sharp with the edges of reality. I saw the blood. What blood? The crowd surged, their curious horror piqued, their fears each turning knife-like within. The child was suddenly the focus, uncertain yet fierce. The blood of sins unleashed. They made us watch. My father. The word hung uncomfortably, as if he was balancing truth on a trembling tightrope. Gasps washed over the crowd like surf crashing on a shore, drowning each heart in rising tides of terror. What more had the villagers hidden from one another? The avenger watched them, almost savoring the moment as a predator would his prey, the air thickening with rage and retribution, his dagger beckoning them toward a reckoning they could scarcely imagine. As tension mounted and secrets threatened to explode, one question lingered, aching for answers: could the town live with the reality of their own darkness now rising like smoke from ashes? And as the child stood trembling, shadows whispering around him, another thought crept into their midst, a gnawing fear that this was only the beginning. What awaited them all when the truth finally clawed its way to the surface? The whispers grew louder, a murmur that turned from anxious questions to frantic accusations. Panic began to bloom as the villagers grappled with the unthinkable. Some stepped back, allowing the child to stand alone, while others edged closer, compelled to know more. What did you see? A woman cried out, desperately seeking clarity amidst the chaos. Her features were twisted in fear, cheeks flushed, eyes glistening in the dim glow of flickering lanterns. I saw the blood. The child repeated, his voice cracking. They dragged my father into the woods. There were shadows everywhere. He was screaming. A chill swept through the crowd like a gust of wind, every heart pounding in unison. The priest's gaze fell upon the boy. What you witnessed was more than you can understand. His voice, though shaky, was steady. You must listen. The avenger shifted slightly, his dagger shimmering darkly as if it were alive with a hunger of its own. He had been waiting for this, waiting for them to unravel. Listen to the priest. A burly man scoffed, stepping forward. Why should we heed the words of a man who has abandoned his flock? His fists were clenched, ready for a fight, the muscles in his neck tense as he readied himself against the soft-spoken man cloaked in dread. The priest is right. A voice cried from somewhere near the back, desperation creeping in. What if we were all part of it? We can't just ignore it. Enough. The priest's shout rang out, silencing the murmurs. Your anger won't save you. If you truly want to understand your pain, you need only look within yourselves. Each of you carries a shadow waiting to reveal itself. The group shuddered at his words, eyes dropping to the ground, but before anyone could digest the weight of his statement, a loud crash shattered the uneasy silence. The front door of the church burst open, slamming against the wall, and in stormed two police officers, breathless, flashlights cutting through the darkness. What is happening here? One officer demanded, his tone backing, filled with authority. The crowd parted, revealing the child trembling amid the chaos, the avenger standing still, the priest with his haunted eyes. Just a story, someone whispered, fear dripping from the words like poison. Story. The second officer grit his teeth, trying to take in the scene before him. We received calls about a disturbance, a murder in the woods. Blood was found. A collective gasp erupted, hearts plummeting. The realization crashed down on them like a blanket of ice. Was it possible? Was the nightmare arriving in their midst? The child's eyes widened. I told you. My father stopped. The first officer snapped, cutting him off as tension coiled tighter. We need to make sense of this. What has been happening here? The priest stepped forward, ready to speak once again, but the Avenger moved with a predator's grace, blocking his path. No more lies. The Avenger hissed, and the dagger glinted ominously in his hand. They need to know or they will never understand. At that moment, everything seemed to pause. The weight of their sins loomed over them, heavier than fog, as shadows flickered around the village. What do you mean? The officer pressed, his voice now laced with a hint of fear. The boy trembled, pointing at the Avenger. He knows what they really did. The air thickened with tension. The Avenger moved, stepping away from the priest as he brandished the dagger. Your sins will be purged. Tonight, I will free you from your darkness. The crowd gasped collectively, as realization dawned, sending shivers down their spines. What did he mean by free? Would more blood be shed? Before anyone could react, a low rumble echoed from deep within the woods, a sound akin to a beast waking from slumber, hungry for its next meal. The villagers turned as one, hearts racing. In that moment of silence before chaos erupted, one last thought pierced through the suffocating air. Was it really too late to confront their demons, or had the abominable truth chosen to expose itself through the hands of the wicked? As the ground shook beneath their feet, anticipation crawled up their spines. The storm was indeed gathering, but would it bring salvation or destruction? The rumble deepened, transforming into a growl that reverberated through the air, strong enough to make the lanterns flicker. The villagers shuffled back, their feet stumbling over one another in a frantic attempt to escape the chaos. Faces twisted in fear lit by the dimming light revealed a collective horror etched into their hearts, a fear of both the unknown outside and the malevolence lurking within their own souls. Get back! The second officer shouted, voice cracking as he raised his flashlight, attempting to pierce the darkness beyond the church's threshold. Shadows danced beneath the trees, contorting into grotesque shapes as if mocking the very essence of their lives. The Avenger's dagger glinted with a deadly promise in the fading glow as he stepped forward, determination writ large across his features. Each of you has buried something. Don't act as if you are innocent. He roared, his voice cutting through the fear like a knife. Tonight, the truth will be laid bare. What truth? Demanded the burly man, now trembling as he faced the Avenger. What are you trying to prove, killing innocent folks? The Avenger just chuckled, a bitter sound that erased any doubt of his intentions. Innocence is a fragile facade. I will show you the shadows haunting our lives. You want blood? Fine. I'll give you blood, but it will not belong to me. With that, he shifted, pointing his dagger away from himself and toward the forest. At that moment, the ground shook violently, sending the congregation tumbling forward, a wave of panic crashing over them. The police officers barely steadied themselves, adrenaline sparking through their veins. We need to clear this area. The first officer bellowed, but his instructions faded into the chaos as the villagers rushed toward the church door, desperate to escape the impending nightmare. Suddenly, from the shadowy depths of the woods, figures emerged, dark silhouettes enshrouded in dread. The fear of what they could become clawed at the edges of their minds. Some villagers recognized them instantly, lost souls, once their friends and family. Their gaze seemed hungry, eyes gleaming with a malevolent desire. Help us, a voice cried, barely audible yet weighed down with despair. The crowd hesitated, frozen between their fear and a flicker of compassion. Were these the ones who had died, now begging for release? Or were they the harbingers of a greater terror about to strike? The priest finally found his voice again, a frantic whisper that begged for calm amidst the storm. This is not the solution. Turn away from the violence, he urged, yet his words hung like loose threads, barely holding the fabric of the moment together. But the Avengers saw no mercy in their frightened faces. "They have forgotten what they took from you," he hissed to the villagers, now encircling themselves as if to forge a protective wall around their sins. "Remember, it was you who cast them aside, you who allowed darkness to seep into your hearts." The child, still standing apart, wide-eyed and trembling, stepped forward. "They weren't all bad," he stammered, voice small yet courageous. "They loved us too." A glimmer of hope flickered in the child's eyes, urging those around him to reconsider. Before anything more could be said, a thunderous roar erupted from the depths of the woods, more powerful than before, drowning out the last echoes of reason. The villagers turned toward the sound, hearts pounding, every instinct screaming to run. But something else held them, their curiosity mixed with fear, each person wrestling with a question that swirled like a storm within. What had they unleashed in the shadows? Suddenly, a figure surged forward from the dark, the very thing they had all dreaded. In that split second, reality blurred, and a chilling thought pierced their minds. Was this the embodiment of their nightmares returning to claim the death's oath, or an innocent spirit seeking vengeance for the sins they had neglected to confront? As they stumbled back, all hope seemed to fade with the shadows, leaving only one last idea to fester. What if? The moment for their reckoning had finally arrived. The creature emerged from the shadows, long, gnarled limbs stretched wide, its twisted face a bruised canvas of sorrow and rage. An echo of the villagers' darkest fears, it was an amalgamation of lost souls, each horror carved deeply into its anguished form. An otherworldly howl escaped its lips, piercing the night, sending a shiver down their spines. Panic turned into mayhem as villagers clamored to retreat, but the door they once rushed toward now felt like a cage, trapping them in a nightmare with no escape. The air crackled with electricity, heavy with dread and despair. The Avenger stood his ground, dagger clenched tightly. "Face your sins. This is the reckoning." The creature lunged forward, eyes glaring with a ferocious intensity, resembling both a predator and a mournful spirit. Heartbeats thundered in unison, rising to a crescendo of overwhelming fear. Shadows closed in around them as the line between the living and the dead blurred. "Is that you, James?" A woman cried out, her voice strained with disbelief, eyes wide with sorrow as she recognized in the creature's remnants the frail outline of her long-lost brother. "What happened to you?" "Who?" The Avenger bellowed, his own fear now igniting rage. "He is not James. He is a reminder of what you failed to grasp." Murmurs rippled through the mob as memories awakened, stories long buried in the recesses of their minds. Those they had wronged were now but silhouettes of their past, brought forth by unyielding guilt. The shadows advanced, and with them, reluctant memories resurfaced like grotesque specters. The burly man shuddered, his body betraying his bravado. "He was a good man. I didn't." The words stumbled over his tongue, a confession buried under layers of denial. "Didn't he what?" The Avenger demanded, eyes blazing like molten fire. "Didn't he protect him? Didn't he care when he cried for help? You can't hide from your darkness anymore. Stop this." The priest shouted, voice cracking as he stepped between them, palms raised in desperation. "You're tearing apart what's left of us. Show mercy. Mere mercy won't absolve you." The Avenger turned to the priest, his voice venomous. "Look at them, your flock, rotting with their secrets. Can't you see? Your prayers are nothing when results are drowned in blood." Then, amidst the chaos, a quiet sob sliced through the air. The child stood alone, clutching his trembling hands. He looked up, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "What if they can change?" His voice rose above the cacophony of cries. "Don't we owe them that?" The creature halted, tilting its head, something relaxed in its posture, if only momentarily. The villagers turned as one, their expressions flickering between horror and a grain of hope, but hope was a fickle thing. Just as they thought they might grasp it, the woods erupted with deafening roars. Once more a horde of shadows surged forth, lured by the scent of chaos. "What have we done?" The burly man gasped, realizing fear could bring out not just monsters but also desperate people driven to desperate acts. Too late for that now. The Avenger leapt, his dagger glinting, drawing the threatening figures to attention. The frenzy around them intensified, swelling like a storm. As more figures emerged from the darkness, each one a reflection of guilt, each threatening to topple the fragile tower of their convictions, reality began to spin, unmooring themselves from any semblance of normalcy. The Avenger raised his dagger, shadows amassing like a living wave. Tonight, we unearthed the truth. But would anyone want to face the truth? Screams pierced the dark, voices clamoring for survival amidst the growing tide. What else would be revealed? What other secrets lay hidden in the depths of those shadows? As the confrontation loomed ever closer, the vastness of their darkness gathered strength, challenging them to reckon with the ghost of their past or be consumed by them. Would they find redemption amidst the slaughter, or had all light gone out forever? The shadows roared closer, their forms riding in the dim light, a chaotic mass of teeth and hollow eyes. The villagers pressed against one another, hearts racing, breath shallow. It was the kind of fear that turned friends into strangers, binding them tighter in panic, even as they fought to break free. "Stay together!" shouted the priest, his voice trembling. But he was met with frantic murmurs. Some clutched their loved ones, others turned to run, and amidst the panic, the little child stood frozen, vulnerability carved into his small frame. A chilling wind whipped through the doorway, bringing with it the chilling scent of earth and decay. The Avenger, caught in the tension of the moment, met the eyes of the creature that had once been James. "This is your moment, your chance," but instead of charging, the grotesque figure took a step back, confusion flickering like a candle in a draught. The child's soft plea echoed in the stillness. "How can we forgive if we don't confront our past? Enough with this misguided hope." The Avenger shouted, lunging at the shadows. "You think mercy can save you? It's time to face what you ran from." As he moved, the earth itself groaned, and the shadows recoiled, revealing more pasts twisted into the fabric of the night. The hysteria grew, cries morphed into wails as villagers found themselves confronting familiar faces among the ghoulish figures. That burly man gasped loudly, pressing his hands against his cheeks. "Mary! I never knew!" she shrieked, sprawled on the ground, her posture mirroring one of the specters. "I thought you had left us. You were supposed to protect my son." A sharp crack echoed as one of the figures attacked, the air thickening with the weight of terror. The villagers flinched as if struck, their histories erupting violently in front of them. "Fight back!" yelled the Avenger, brandishing his dagger. But instead of charging, shadows melted away under the moonlight, revealing the past transgressions, memories spiraling into the night. "Let him go!" a woman screamed, her voice laced with despair. Didn't he deserve this?" "We all have," since the Avenger faltered, caught off guard. Perhaps she had a point, he thought. Each villager was a mirror reflecting guilt. What if, in this storm of accusations, they understood their darkest moments were connected? In a flicker of indecision, he glanced back at the child. The innocence shone through even in disaster, reminding them all that they had the power to choose. With a tightening grip on his weapon, he turned fully, his heart pounding with a sudden surge of determination. "Then let the truth come forth." Before he could act, shadows surged, twisting violently around him. They were not solely the remnants of the wronged, they were also the villagers' fears taking form, each facing down the consequences of their buried secrets. "Can we really face this?" the priest questioned, his voice wavering yet steady. "Is redemption truly possible?" "Redemption," the Avenger replied, anger simmering. "It only comes if we fight. Fight for what we've lost, for what we promised to protect." Amidst the unraveling chaos, the line between viewed truth and hidden horrors blurred more than ever. But stepping forward, the child nodded, resolve gleaming in his young eyes. As shadows gathered, becoming an ocean of sorrow and anger, the scream of the villagers harmonized with the heartbeat of the nightmare that threatened to engulf them all. A choice lay before them, the weight of their futures resting in the hands of the past, and as they huddled closer, they stood upon the precipice of revelation. What darkness would spill forth? What redemption awaited them under the weight of truth? The air grew heavier, the swirling shadows beckoning them closer, demanding their decisions. And with that, the storm was set to break. The swirling shadows seemed to pulse with a life of their own, curling through the air like living smoke, heavy with whispered regrets. The villagers huddled together, fear etched in their faces, minds racing through their shared history, a cacophony of guilt that spilled over, drowning out the priest's desperate pleas. As the shadows thickened, a wild laughter erupted from them, echoing off the walls like a horrid melody. It was the laughter of the betrayed, the hurt, and those lost. "Face us," they called, their voices twisted with pain. "Face what you've done." The avenger felt his own resolve shaking, threatened by their cries. Each ghostly figure morphed and twisted, revealing secrets that had been buried for too long. He could almost see the connections, the frayed threads of guilt and betrayal linking the villagers to their tormented phantoms. The burly man, clutching his head, howled out, "What more do you want from us?" "Truth." The avenger roared, pushing through the weight of despair. "Truth must find its way into the light. Only then can we hope for redemption." The child placed a trembling hand on his arm. "But what if the truth shatters us?" It was a notion that rocked the avenger to his core. If the past was too dark, could the village ever rise from its ashes? Moments ticked by painfully, and their shared terror coalesced into a heavy anticipation, as the shadows lingered and shifted, revealing even deeper horrors. Then, without warning, a figure shot forward, its form human yet distorted. It was Mary, still wearing the betrayal of her past like a cloak. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and the sunken eyes of what had been her son glimmered with an unholy light. "Do you remember me?" she cried out, each word dripping with agony. "You swore to protect. You abandoned me to darkness." A gasp surged through the crowd. Guilt washed over their faces like a wave, but the avenger stood firm. "Mary, we cannot do this now. Not in this way. Do you think I care about the wrongs we've done?" She laughed, a manic edge in her tone. "I cared for my son, you did nothing. Your promises mean nothing." The shadows buzzed with excitement, eager for the chaos. They watched, hungry eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. Would they devour the villagers' resolve like wolves hunting in the night? "Dig deeper," the avenger urged, pulling the villagers into the fray with him. "What have we buried? What have we hidden?" The villagers turned inward, searching their hearts and finding the echoes of their past. Faces blanched, hands gripped tighter, and tears flooded as each dark secret began surfacing: betrayals, wrongs unatoned, dreams left to rot. "I left the gates unlocked," cried a trembling man, eyes wide with horror. "When the beast rampaged through, I did nothing. I could have spoken out, but I was afraid." A woman whimpered, her voice raw. "I chose ignorance." Another admitted, bowing his head. As each confession resonated within the throng, the shadows grew restless, snarling and writhing, demanding recognition. With each revelation, the air thickened with tension, suffocating their spirit. The priest, now trembling visibly, gripped the cross around his neck as if it might offer salvation. The avenger stepped forward, his dagger raised high in defiance. "You think the shadows are your enemy? No, they are reflections of your sins. If we banish the darkness hiding within, only then can the light return." But as he declared his intention, the ground trembled ominously. A growl like thunder reverberated through the crowd, and the shadows surged, enveloping them all. "We want to let go," they screeched, vibrating with grotesque intensity. In that moment, as terror and courage wrestled inside of him, the avenger realized that redemption has a steep price. Was he ready to pay it? And as the darkness coiled tighter, he faced the harsh reality that the storm of truth was only just beginning. What greater horrors would arise from the depths of their shadows? And would they be ready to confront them before it was too late? The shadows roared in a cacophony of rage, their dark forms transforming into monstrous visages of the villagers' deepest fears. Faces twisted in anguish and fury while whispers grew louder, thundering accusations cascading over the crowd. You turned away. You left the gates open. You never cared. Heart pounding, the Avenger glanced back at the villagers. Their faces were painted with horror and regret, each of them reflecting the stains of their past. The air felt electric, crackling with untold truths, and a shiver crawled down his spine. This was more than a reckoning, it was a summons. With a deep breath, he raised his dagger higher. Do not let fear consume you. If we confront this darkness together, we can break its hold. But as he spoke, the ground quaked violently, throwing him off balance. He staggered, clutching the section of earth beneath his feet, feeling its core pulsing with the shadows' relentless hunger. As the shadows lunged forward, reaching out like fingers of night, the Avenger shouted, "Stand firm. Remember your pledges. Remember your dreams." Yet, the villagers were already stumbling back, spurred by unrelenting dread. Mary's figure pulsated among the shadowy fragments, a mix of agony and anger. You can't escape us. We are everything you wished you didn't do. Her voice sliced through the air, sharp as glass. A tremor ran through the group as confessions burst forth in chaotic succession. I betrayed my friend. A woman screamed. I kept the truth of the beast hidden. Another lamented. Each admission fueled the shadows, swirling and twisting as they danced with the weight of regret. The Avenger's heart sank, realizing with each revelation, they only dug deeper into despair. Enough. The Avenger cried, his tone cracking. We are sinking into the very abyss we seek to escape. You must fight the urge to hide. But the crowd was slipping away, scared whispers fell like leaves in autumn. Can't they see? The shadows were not their only enemies. He pushed forward, stepping into the heart of the tumult. With each step, he felt the absorbed pain of the villagers gnawing at his insides. Suddenly, a figure broke free from the crowd, a young woman, defiant and fierce. You think it's our fault? She shouted, voice rising above the terror. You think we're the source of this darkness? Her eyes blazed with a fire that chased away the shadows momentarily. There's power in unmasking the truth. But we need guidance. The Avenger turned to her, his breath catching. Hope flickered in her resolve. Yes. Let us reclaim our voices. He shouted back. Not just for us, but for those lost. Our confessions will quell these shadows. As her defiance sparked something in others, voices rose from the villagers, shaky yet growing steadier. I neglected the warnings. I did not honor the dead. I let of fear blinded me. The confessions wove through the air, mingling with the darkness, reacting like salt on a wound. And as they spoke, the shadows hesitated, retreating a fraction. The heaviness in the atmosphere lightened for an instant, granting a glimpse of hope. But then, without warning, an eclipse cast across the scene. A figure emerged, massive and terrifying, the embodiment of vengeance itself. Its eyes gleamed with malice as it swallowed the dim light, drawing the shadows back, swirling and riding around it. The Avenger's heart raced. He realized they had awakened a greater terror, a force that thrived on regret and despair. Would the darkness consume them all, or had they finally awakened the courage to combat it? As the villagers cowered under the shadow's looming presence, the Avenger felt the weight of countless souls pressing down on him. In that moment, he understood, the hardest truths were yet to be unveiled, and the deepest horrors awaited them just beyond the horizon. Prepare yourself, he yelled, determination flooding his veins. We are not finished yet. But what price would they ultimately pay when faced with the truth that remained hidden? And could they summon the strength to face a nightmare manifest? The dense mist coiled around the graves like a suffocating shroud, wrapping the villagers tighter in their own fears. The air crackled with tension as the Avenger stood at the forefront, a bulwark against the shadows that writhed hungrily, echoing their despair and guilt. "Face your demons," he shouted, his voice breaking through the cacophony of fear and regret. "Tonight, we'll unearth the truth buried deep within us." The villagers looked at one another, eyes wide like frightened deer caught in headlights. Their breaths held, a collective shiver running through them as the shapes of their darkest secrets drew closer. "Do you see?" the Avenger continued, pushing through the suffocating silence that gripped them. "Each of you carries a piece of this darkness. Each secret has contributed to this nightmare. Together, we must acknowledge our sins, only then can we find redemption." The shadows surged forward, twisting and contorting, twisting smiles across faces mirrored in the dark. An anguished howl echoed, resonating through the graveled earth as the spectral figures of the villagers past loomed near. Those they had wronged were here again, and the unrelenting guilt tightened its grip even further. "No!" A voice rang out, a woman's voice, raw yet so vibrant amidst the shivering fear. The crowd turned, startled. It was Mary. "We can't dwell in the past, not forever. We are more than the mistakes we made. Do you remember the laughs and hopes we shared?" Another villager added, stepping forward, emboldened. "We stood together once, we can do it again. We've got to be better." Seeing the flicker of courage igniting among them, the Avenger felt a warmth spread through him, an awakening of resolve. "Exactly. Together, we can change the narrative." The atmosphere shifted, the vibrations of guilt clashed violently with the newfound conviction. One by one, they began to confess, not just in fear but with sincerity. "I hid the truth, afraid of losing status. I neglected my loved ones, blinded by ambitions." Each revelation carved through the air like embers finding wind, igniting something that humanity so desperately bonded over: compassion. "Keep going," the Avenger urged, pushing backward against the tumbling darkness. "Let the shadows hear your truth. With every dropped secret, they fade, they lose power. Cast the light upon the murky depths of your souls." What once were whispers of betrayal transformed into shouts of vulnerability. The crowd pressed forward, each stepping into their truth bravely, sharing the weight of their burdens. The creature of vengeance howled in fury, writhing in denial, realizing the power of collective honesty. The shadows struggled against the light blossoming in the villagers' hearts. They were finally seeing their worth beyond their misdeeds. A fierce wind stirred the air, shaking the very fabric of their reality, causing the shadows to recoil and shrink. The Avenger pushed against the onslaught of darkness, feeling the rush of worth rising within him. "Fight! We will not let our past determine our future." The shadows writhed, swaying in a desperate dance to hold on to their power. The darkness clawed at the light, but it was too late. Voices sprang forth, the villagers joined together, hands clasped, standing defiantly in unity. Light welled within them, illuminating the ground as if the very earth was rising against their oppressors. In the last gust of shadowy despair, Mary turned to the creature they once knew and whispered, "You're not just a product of our choices. You still have a chance to be more than our fear." The creature hesitated, and in that moment of uncertainty, the villagers pressed their hands to their hearts. "Release us. We'll carry the good in honor of those we lost." The specters of regret flickered. A hush fell as all shadows around them curled inward, boiling in a tempest of swirling despair, until with an agonizing roar, all collapsed into nothingness, the echoes of whispers fading into the distance as dawn broke over the horizon. Light flooded the graveyard, washing away the remnants of darkness. The villagers stared, breathless and proud, grief melting into hope as they faced the sunrise. "We did it," they murmured, disbelief mixing with relief. They felt lighter, chains shattering beneath their feet. The Avenger, too, finally tasted the sweetness of liberation. "This victory isn't simply mine or yours, it's ours. It belongs to every single life we touched. As the sun rose, a warmth enveloped them, gilding the remnants of pain, offering a promise of new beginnings. They shared glances filled with forgiveness, and the sorrows they carried no longer had the power to bind them, but instead wove them tighter in community. Together, they walked from the graveyard, leaving behind the past while carrying forward the lessons learned. Redemption had begun, and they promised to honor the memories of those lost with unwavering comfort and kinship. Let us never forget, the Avenger pledged, looking back one last time before stepping into the light. We'll keep striving for the truth, together. And as they stepped forward into a new dawn, the shadows behind them slowly dissolved, leaving behind a whisper, "You have all chosen the light." But even now, hidden traces of darkness lingered in the corners of their minds, and as the last echoes of that night faded, a thought crept in: what would they do when forgotten sins came again, seeking release? Don't wait another second. Make sure you subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of our exclusive stories next time. You need to smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And I want to hear from you. Mark your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Flood that section. Lastly, go ahead and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this stunning conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Let us spread these stories together.